The formal, public-facing world of international relations, with its grand summits, its staged handshakes, and its carefully worded treaties, is often a theater for the masses. It is the visible and highly sanitized expression of statecraft. But beneath this stage, in the shadows of power, a different and often more decisive form of diplomacy is conducted. This is the world of clandestine negotiation, of influence operations, of deep cover diplomacy. This doctrine is not concerned with the niceties of protocol or the formalities of international law. It is the pragmatic and often ruthless art of achieving a nation's foreign policy objectives through the use of covert intelligence methods. Its goal is not to sign a treaty, but to shape a reality on the ground that makes the desired treaty, or its equivalent, an inevitability. Deep cover diplomacy operates in the spaces where traditional diplomacy cannot or will not go. It is used to open lines of communication with hostile states, to influence the internal politics of adversary nations, to negotiate with non-state actors, and to manage crises, all while maintaining a perfect and unbreakable shield of plausible deniability. This is not the work of ambassadors in pinstripe suits, but of intelligence officers operating under deep cover, of recruited assets moving silently through the halls of foreign power, and of trusted intermediaries whose connection to the state can never be proven. It is the unseen hand of statecraft, and its successes are, by their very nature, never celebrated publicly. To understand this doctrine is to understand a fundamental truth of international power. The most important conversations between nations are rarely the ones the public is allowed to hear. This is an analysis of how those conversations are engineered and how negotiations are won from the shadows. The primary actor in the theater of deep cover diplomacy is not the diplomat, but the intelligence officer, specifically the case officer trained in the art of human intelligence, or HUMINT. This individual is a unique and highly specialized breed. He is a master of psychology, a student of culture, and a practitioner of the science of human relationships. His role is not merely to steal secrets, as is commonly believed. In this context, his primary function is to identify, assess, cultivate, and manage human assets who are in a position to influence political outcomes. He is, in essence, a diplomat who carries no flag and enjoys no immunity. Operating under deep cover, a non-official and often commercial identity provides him with access to a world that is completely closed to the official diplomat. He can meet with military dissidents, with disaffected bureaucrats, with black market financiers, and with the leaders of insurgent groups, all without the official sanction of his government. This deep cover is his greatest weapon and his greatest vulnerability. It allows him unparalleled access, but it also means that if he is compromised, his government will deny his existence. He operates without a net, relying solely on his wits and his training. The case officer is a master of building rapport. He must be able to find common ground with individuals whose ideologies and life experiences are completely alien to his own. He is a chameleon, able to reflect back to his targets their own worldview, their own grievances, and their own ambitions, thereby creating a powerful and often genuine human bond. This bond is the foundation upon which all influence is built. Before any negotiation from the shadows can begin, the correct target for influence must be identified. This is not a haphazard process. It is a rigorous and systematic intelligence cycle. The objective is to find an individual who possesses both the access to influence a desired outcome and a psychological vulnerability that can be exploited. The targeting process begins with a deep, structural analysis of the adversary's government or organization. Who are the key decision makers? Who has the ear of the leadership? Who controls the flow of money or information? Who are the rising stars and the fading powers? This is a process of mapping the human terrain of power. Once a pool of potential targets is identified, a detailed psychological profile is developed for each one. The operator employs the MICE framework, money, ideology, coercion, ego to diagnose the target's primary motivational driver. This diagnosis will determine the entire strategy of the negotiation to come. Is the target a man who is deeply in debt or who has an insatiable lust for wealth? His motivation is money. Is he a true believer in a cause that can be aligned with the operator's objectives? His motivation is ideology. Is he being blackmailed or threatened by his own regime? His motivation is coercion. Does he possess a desperate need for recognition and a belief in his own superiority? His motivation is ego. Every person has a set of needs and vulnerabilities. The targeting process is the clinical science of identifying the most powerful of these, the one that can be used as the primary lever to shape their behavior. A negotiation that is not tailored to the specific motivation of the target is a negotiation that is destined to fail. The currency of deep cover diplomacy is not good faith or mutual understanding, it is leverage. Negotiation from the shadows is the art of creating and applying precise and often overwhelming pressure on a target to induce a desired action. This leverage must be cultivated with the same care as the human relationship. One of the most potent forms of leverage is informational. This is the world of kompromat, or compromising material. Through surveillance and human intelligence, information is gathered on the target's secret vulnerabilities, a hidden corruption, a personal indiscretion, a past crime. The mere existence of this information, and the implicit threat of its exposure, can be a powerful tool of control. Another form of leverage is economic. The target can be offered personal enrichment, lucrative business opportunities for himself or his family, or access to offshore accounts. On a larger scale, he can be offered the promise of future economic aid or investment for his political faction or his region, making him a powerful patron in his own right. Political leverage is also a key tool. The operator can offer the promise of his government's covert support for the target's own political ambitions. He can be provided with intelligence on his rivals, funding for his political activities, and favorable coverage in international media. The operator offers to help the target win his own internal battles in exchange for the target helping to win the operator's external ones. Finally, there is coercive leverage. This is the stick to the other lever's carrot. It is the implicit or explicit threat of negative consequences if cooperation is withheld. This could be the exposure of the aforementioned kompromat, the freezing of personal assets, or even the threat of covert physical action. This is used as a last resort, as it creates a resentful, not a cooperative asset. The negotiation itself is rarely a single, formal event. It is the entire, patient, and often years-long process of cultivating the target and transforming him into an asset. This is the recruitment cycle, and it is the heart of the deep-cover diplomat's craft. The cycle begins with the spotting of a potential target, followed by the assessment of his MICE profile and his access to information or influence. If he is deemed a suitable target, the development phase begins. This is the slow and careful process of building a relationship. The case officer will orchestrate a series of seemingly accidental encounters. He will build a friendship based on a shared interest, a business proposition, or a mutual acquaintance. The relationship is built on a foundation of trust and rapport, often for months or even years, before any hint of its true purpose is revealed. During this time, the operator will conduct a series of small tests. He may ask for a minor, non-sensitive piece of information or a small deniable favor. This is to test the target's willingness to cooperate and to begin the process of inducing cognitive dissonance. The target begins to see himself as a friend who helps the operator. The final stage is the pitch, the moment when the true nature of the relationship is revealed and a direct request for cooperation is made. If the development phase has been handled correctly, this is not a confrontational moment. It is the logical and natural culmination of the relationship that has been built. The target has already been psychologically prepared to say yes. This entire cycle is the negotiation. It is a slow, methodical process of psychological alignment, where the target's own self-interest is gradually and skillfully merged with the strategic objectives of the operator's government. The communication in this world of shadow negotiation is, by necessity, clandestine. There are no official cables, no memoranda of understanding. The primary rule is that there can be no provable link, no paper trail connecting the asset to the intelligence service. The operator will use a variety of secure and deniable communication methods, from dead drops and encrypted messaging platforms to face-to-face meetings in the safe houses of foreign capitals. Every word, every signal is carefully managed to preserve the security of the operation. Often, the most sensitive negotiations are conducted through intermediaries, or cutouts. This is the realm of track to diplomacy. The operator will use a trusted third party, a retired but respected diplomat, a well-connected academic, or an international business leader as a deniable go-between. This intermediary can carry messages and test the waters with the target or his government without the direct and provable involvement of the intelligence service. It provides an essential layer of insulation and plausible deniability. If the approach is rejected, it was merely the private initiative of a concerned citizen, and the official government is none the wiser. What then is the ultimate objective of this deep cover diplomacy? It is rarely a grand public outcome like a peace treaty. The objectives are more specific, more subtle, and more impactful. The goal is to achieve a political influence operation. The negotiation is successful when the recruited asset, acting for his own complex reasons of money, ideology, ego, or coercion, takes a specific action within his own government that aligns with the sponsoring nation's interests. For example, the asset, a senior military official, might successfully argue in a private meeting against a planned military offensive. An asset in the finance ministry might create a series of bureaucratic roadblocks that delay or kill a trade deal with an adversary nation. An asset in the intelligence service might feed his own government a piece of doctored intelligence that leads them to make a poor strategic decision. The victory is achieved when the target government makes a policy choice that it believes is in its own best interest, but which was, in fact, subtly guided and engineered by an unseen external hand. The hand of the deep-covered diplomat is never seen. This entire enterprise is governed by a single, unbreakable, cardinal rule: plausible deniability. Every aspect of the operation, from its conception to its execution, must be structured in such a way that the sponsoring government can plausibly deny any and all involvement. This is the fundamental difference between deep cover diplomacy and traditional diplomacy. The ambassador acts with the full and public authority of his state. The intelligence officer acts with no official authority at all. His government must be able to truthfully say, if he is captured, "We have no knowledge of this man or his activities." Plausible deniability is achieved through the use of deep cover, of intermediaries, of clandestine communications, and of a complete lack of any formal paper trail. It is a constant and nerve-wracking exercise in operational security. It is this principle that allows a nation to pursue its interests in the most hostile and dangerous environments in the world. It allows it to shape events without leaving fingerprints, to win victories without ever admitting a battle was fought. To make these concepts concrete, consider a fictionalized case study. Nation A wishes to prevent its rival Nation B from establishing a naval base in the strategic country. X. Overt diplomatic pressure has failed. The treaty is about to be signed. A deep-cover diplomacy operation is initiated. Intelligence identifies a key admiral in Country X's navy who is in charge of the base negotiations. The assessment reveals he is deeply in debt from gambling and possesses a massive ego. His motivation is a combination of money and ego. A case officer, operating under the cover of a wealthy international investor, cultivates a relationship with the admiral over a period of months. He flatters his ego, praises his strategic genius, and eventually offers him a lucrative and deniable consulting fee in exchange for advice on maritime security. The negotiation is simple. The case officer does not ask the admiral to vote against the treaty. He simply provides the admiral with fabricated intelligence detailing the supposed environmental and political risks of the new base, along with a list of procedural and sovereignty concerns. The admiral, now financially compensated and seeing an opportunity to appear more intelligent and patriotic than his political superiors, uses this manufactured information to argue fiercely against the treaty within his own government's secret councils. He successfully delays the process, sows seeds of doubt, and the treaty eventually collapses under the weight of his expert objections. Nation A has achieved its primary foreign policy objective. The naval base is not built, and its hands are completely clean. The admiral acted in what he believed was his own best interest, driven by the greed and ego that were so skillfully identified and manipulated. The negotiation was a complete success, and it never officially happened. This is the essence of deep-cover diplomacy. It is the unseen hand of statecraft, a powerful and often decisive tool in the great game of international relations. It operates in the dark, amoral, and pragmatic world that lies just beneath the surface of our headlines. It is a high-risk, high-reward endeavor. An operation that succeeds can change the course of history. An operation that fails can lead to a disastrous international incident and the death or imprisonment of the officer involved. It requires a unique and rare combination of skills in its practitioners: the psychological acuity of a trained therapist, the patience of a master strategist, the courage of a frontline soldier, and the acting ability of a seasoned professional. The world is not always shaped by the grand pronouncements of presidents and prime ministers. It is just as often shaped by the quiet, patient, and invisible work of the deep-covered diplomat, the man who negotiates in the shadows on behalf of a nation that will never acknowledge his name.